Okay, so get this. We're going deep into some declassified documents. Yeah, from the late 60s.
Okay.
Mostly written by this McDonnell Douglas engineer named R.M. Wood.
Okay.
What we've got here is a deep dive into some pretty out there stuff.
All right.
It's a mix of like theoretical physics and UFO sightings.
Okay.
It's like someone took, like hard science fiction and tried to turn it into actual research.
Yeah. What's fascinating is that Wood was trying to develop this entirely new theoretical framework called brutino physics.
Brutino physics,
Yeah.
right?
He believed that everything in the universe was made up of these fundamental particles called brutinos.
Okay, brutinos.
Mm-hmm.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, what exactly are these things?
Right.
And how do they fit into what we already know about physics?
So picture tiny particles constantly repelling each other, zipping around at an average speed of 1.4 times the speed of light.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
1.4 times the speed of light. Yeah.
Isn't that,
Yeah.
impossible?
Well,
I thought nothing could travel faster than the speed of light.
that's where Wood's theory gets really interesting.
Okay.
He argued that the speed of light is only constant
Okay.
relative to the background sea of brutinos.
Okay.
So if you can imagine a universe where absolute space and time exist,
Uh-huh.
that's the kind of model he was proposing.
Gotcha.
It directly challenges Einstein's theory of relativity.
So he's essentially trying to rewrite the laws of physics as we know them.
He absolutely was.
Wow.
And to make it even more ambitious, he attempted to explain existing phenomena like gravity and the behavior of light
Oh, wow.
using this framework.
Okay.
For example, he used brutino interactions to explain the gravitational deflection of light, something that Einstein explained through relativity.
So he wasn't just coming up with something entirely new. He was trying to re-explain things we already know, but through the lens of brutinos.
Right.
It's a pretty bold move.
It is.
Did his theory hold up to scrutiny? Well, that's where things get a little more complicated.
Okay.
While he was clearly brilliant and dedicated to rigorous mathematical principles,
Yeah.
brutino physics hasn't been validated by the scientific community.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a radical idea, and sometimes those groundbreaking theories, take a while to catch on.
Yeah.
Or they might turn out to be.
Right.
Well, let's just say ahead of their time.
Yeah, definitely.
But how did he explain the formation of things like electrons?
Right.
How do you go from a chaotic soup of brutinos to something stable?
He proposed something called the self-induced pinch effect.
Self-induced pinch effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Imagine these brutinos flowing in specific patterns.
Okay.
Under certain conditions, these flows could pinch themselves,
Uh-huh.
creating concentrated pockets of energy.
Okay.
Those pockets become stable particles like electrons and photons.
So it's like those tiny tornadoes you see in a bottle, like swirling around and holding their shape. I kind of get it, but it still sounds pretty theoretical.
Yes.
Did Wood try to prove any of this with experiments?
He did.
Okay.
He proposed experiments using charge collectors and magnets to measure the forces and interactions.
Okay.
Predicted by his theory,
All right.
he was particularly interested in the properties of what he called atmospheric electrons.
Atmospheric electrons.
Yeah. Suggesting they could hold the key to understanding how stable vortexes form.
Okay.
That's what led him to look at potential applications for energy
Uh-huh.
and even propulsion.
Okay, so we're going from tiny particles to potentially harnessing them for energy.
Yes.
Now, this is where I start to see the connection to those UFO reports.
Right.
Was he suggesting that UFOs might be using something like brutino-based technology?
That seems to be the implication.
Okay.
He was analyzing UFO reports looking for clues
Yeah.
to advanced technologies that might be explained by his brutino model.
Right.
Specifically, he focused on recurring characteristics of UFO sightings. That defied conventional physics.
Like what kind of things stood out to him?
Things like non-inertial maneuvers.
Non-inertial maneuvers.
Yeah, sudden changes in direction and speed that seem impossible,
Yeah.
according to our current understanding of physics.
Right.
There were also reports of electromagnetic effects associated with UFOs, interference with electronics, strange lights and glows,
Uh-huh.
and of course, there were accounts of occupants being seen inside these crafts.
Interesting.
Wood was particularly interested in the things that push the boundaries of our scientific understanding.
So he was basically looking for anomalies in UFO reports, things that our current models can't explain.
Right?
and thinking maybe, just maybe, brutino physics could be the missing piece of the puzzle.
Exactly.
I have to admit, it's a pretty wild idea.
It is.
But did he propose any specific ways that brutinos could be harnessed,
Yeah.
say for something like a propulsion system?
He did.
Here we go.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
I knew it.
Yeah.
This is where it gets really interesting. All right, hit me with it.
Okay.
What kind of propulsion system was he talking about?
Well, he suggested manipulating the brutino field itself
Right?
to create directional forces.
So like kind of surfing on this wave.
Almost like surfing a wave of these particles.
Hang on, so he's talking about manipulating the very fabric of space to move things around.
Yeah.
That's a bit out there, even for me.
It is, and that wasn't all.
Okay.
He also explored the idea of harnessing the energy released from matter-antimatter annihilation.
Okay.
An incredibly powerful,
Yeah.
but incredibly difficult to control process.
Right.
And he even went deep into the potential of electrons moving at near light speed
Okay.
for propulsion.
Wow, that's some next level thinking.
It is.
Was he drawing any comparisons between these brutino propulsion ideas and other theories about harnessing energy from things like gas molecules and neutrinos? Weren't those considered pretty fringe ideas back then, too?
He did. He compared and contrasted his brutino propulsion concepts with those other free field energy ideas.
Okay.
And he acknowledged the challenges, stating very clearly that his concepts were speculative.
Yeah.
And practical implementation was far from certain. But he did suggest some concrete experiments
Okay.
to try and test his ideas.
Okay, this is blowing my mind a little bit.
It is pretty mind-blowing.
And we're talking about concepts that even today are considered pretty out there.
Right.
But this is what I love about these deep dives.
Yeah.
It's like peeking into the mind of a brilliant,
Yeah.
maybe slightly eccentric
Yeah.
scientist from another era.
Yeah, absolutely.
What kind of experiments did he propose?
He suggested building on his earlier work with charge collectors and magnets, but this time focusing on creating specific brutino flow patterns.
Yeah.
That could potentially generate thrust.
Okay.
He also stressed the importance of developing a comprehensive mobile system that could record a wide range of signals: electromagnetic, acoustic, and even gravitational.
So it's almost like a UFO chasing science lab on wheels.
That's like a UFO chasing science lab on wheels.
That he envisioned, but it's more than that, right?
Right.
He wasn't just trying to prove brutino physics. He wanted to see if it could help us understand.
Right.
And maybe even replicate the things that UFOs seem to be capable of.
Yeah,
The things that seem impossible to us right now.
exactly.
Yeah,
And that's what makes his work so intriguing.
absolutely.
He was blending theoretical physics with a deep interest in UFOs,
Yeah.
trying to connect the dots between a radical new theory and observations that defied explanation.
This is already so much more than I expected when we started. I can't wait to see what else we uncover as we dig deeper into these documents.
Well, hold on to your hat, because in the next part, we get to some even more unconventional ideas.
Oh.
We're going to be talking about Wood's exploration of ESP communication
ESP.
and even things like dowsing,
Stabs.
all as possible avenues for understanding UFOs and advanced intelligence.
Okay, I am very intrigued.
All right.
I will definitely hold on to my hat.
Good.
We'll see you in part 2.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into the work of R.M. Wood.
Yeah, when we left off, we were talking about brutinos, propulsion, all this really out there stuff.
Yeah, we've been exploring his brutino physics theory and how he connected it to those UFO sightings.
Yeah.
But as promised,
Yeah.
we're getting into some of the more unconventional ideas.
You're talking about ESP and dowsing, right? I gotta admit, when I first saw those topics in the document list,
Yeah.
my eyebrows, shot up.
Yeah, you're not wrong to be surprised.
Yeah.
It speaks to how open Wood was to exploring these ideas outside the mainstream.
Totally.
He was willing to consider almost anything
Right.
if he thought it might shed light on the mysteries he was trying to solve.
So starting with ESP, are we talking about mind reading, telekinesis, that sort of thing?
Right.
And how on earth did he connect that to UFOs?
So Wood was specifically interested in ESP as a potential way to communicate with UFOs
Okay.
or other advanced intelligences.
Okay.
He even proposed an experiment
Really?
to try and measure...
Wait, he wanted to try and measure ESP?
Yes.
I thought that was supposed to be all about mental energy and
yeah.
intuition,
Right.
things we can't really quantify.
Yeah, he theorized that ESP, if it's real,
Right.
might have a measurable physical component,
Okay.
possibly involving electromagnetic fields
Interesting.
So his experiment involved measuring magnetic fields
Okay.
around people who claimed to have ESP abilities,
Okay.
particularly during moments when they were supposedly communicating psychically.
So he was trying to find a scientific way
Data.
to measure something that's often considered completely subjective.
Absolutely. Even when exploring concepts like ESP, he
Yeah.
was determined to apply, a rigorous, evidence-based approach.
It makes sense given how dedicated he was to scientific methodology.
Right, with brutino physics.
Absolutely.
But what about dowsing?
Right.
That's the one where people use a forked stick or rods to find water. Right.
That's right.
How did that fit into his research?
Dowsing is often considered a form of divination,
Yeah.
relying on intuition and sensitivity to energy fields that are beyond our normal perception.
Okay.
Wood seemed to believe that even practices like dowsing might offer clues to a deeper understanding of the universe.
Okay, I can understand being open-minded, but isn't there a lot of skepticism around dowsing?
Yeah.
It seems like a pretty big leap to
Sure.
connect it to serious scientific inquiry.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
Yeah.
There's certainly a lot of debate about the validity of dowsing,
Right.
and it's not generally considered a reliable scientific method.
Yeah.
It seems Wood was operating on the assumption that
Yeah.
even if there's a kernel of truth in some of these unconventional practices,
Yeah.
they might point towards new principles that could be investigated scientifically.
So he's not necessarily saying that, like dowsing
Right.
is a proven scientific technique.
Not at all.
It's more like he's saying, what if there's something here we don't fully understand?
Exactly.
What if these dowsers are tapping into some force or energy
Right.
that we haven't figured out how to measure yet?
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it's like he's almost inviting other scientists to take a closer look.
Absolutely.
It's definitely a different way of thinking about things.
It is, and it raises a question that I've been thinking about a lot.
Oh, yeah.
As we go through these documents, we're looking at this work as a kind of historical artifact, a glimpse into the scientific thinking of the late 60s.
Yeah.
But what if we fast forward to the present day,
Okay.
with all the advancements in technology and our understanding of physics?
Yeah.
What would a modern-day investigation into brutino physics look like?
That's an interesting thought.
We've got tools and resources
Oh, absolutely.
that Wood couldn't even have dreamed of.
I mean, imagine trying to simulate brutino interactions on a modern supercomputer.
Or using advanced telescopes
Exactly.
to search for the signatures of brutino-based propulsion systems.
We could revisit his proposed experiments with a level of precision that was impossible back then.
For sure.
And think about all the new data we have access to.
Absolutely.
We could re-examine his ideas about gravity in light of what we now know about dark matter and dark energy.
And with the renewed interest in UFOs and UAPs,
Right.
there's a whole new wave of data and observations to analyze.
Absolutely. It's like we're picking up where Wood left off,
Yeah.
but with a whole new toolkit.
But even if we never prove or disprove brutino physics, I think there's a bigger lesson here.
What's that?
Wood wasn't afraid to challenge conventional thinking and explore uncharted territory.
I agree.
And he approached everything with this infectious sense of curiosity and wonder.
I agree. He reminds us that progress often involves questioning assumptions, exploring unconventional ideas,
Yeah.
and being open to unexpected discoveries.
It's almost like he's saying, don't be afraid to ask the crazy questions.
Yeah.
The ones that make other scientists raise their eyebrows.
Right.
You never know where they might lead.
Exactly.
I think that's a pretty inspiring message for anyone who's interested in pushing the boundaries
Absolutely.
of what we know about the universe.
It is, and it makes you wonder
Yeah.
what other groundbreaking ideas might be out there,
Right.
just waiting for someone with the courage and imagination to explore them.
That's a great question.
It is.
And it brings us to the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We're going to take a closer look at a document that outlines Wood's research and development plans.
Right?
It offers some fascinating insights into his priorities
Mm-hmm.
and his vision for the future of scientific exploration. So we've been talking about R.M. Wood, brutino physics, and UFOs.
Yeah, now we're diving into a document that outlines his research and development plans.
So it's like we're getting a sneak peek at his to-do list.
It's like a glimpse into the roadmap he had in mind for tackling these big scientific mysteries.
Right.
This document really highlights his strategic approach to research.
Okay.
He divides his plan into two main areas: theoretical development
Okay.
and experimentation.
Makes sense.
On the theoretical side, he emphasizes the need to build a strong mathematical foundation
Yeah.
for brutino physics.
So, like, he wanted to make sure it wasn't just, like,
Exactly.
a bunch of hand-waving.
He wanted to ensure his ideas were based on uh, solid principles
Right.
and rigorous calculations.
Okay, so he wasn't just throwing out wild ideas.
No.
He was trying to create a coherent
Right.
and internally consistent theory.
Absolutely. That seems like a pretty crucial first step
Yeah,
if you're proposing something as radical as brutino physics.
absolutely.
And on the experimental side,
Yeah,
he laid out a systematic approach to testing the predictions of his theory.
okay.
He suggested starting with simple experiments involving charge collectors and magnets,
Okay.
and gradually increasing complexity as the theory was refined.
So classic scientific method.
Exactly. Hypothesize, test, analyze, refine.
Right, it shows a real dedication to the scientific process.
It does.
Even when he was dealing with concepts that, seemed pretty far out there.
What's interesting is that he was very focused on what he called end product orientation.
End product orientation, okay.
He wasn't just interested in theoretical physics for its own sake.
Right, right.
He wanted to see if brutino physics could lead to practical applications,
Yeah.
particularly in the area of advanced propulsion.
So that's where the UFO connection comes back in.
Exactly.
He was hoping to find evidence in UFO reports
Right.
that might suggest those craft were using some sort of brutino-based technology.
Yes, it was almost like he was trying to reverse engineer UFOs
Right.
to figure out the physics behind their seemingly impossible capabilities.
Yeah.
He called for a systematic analysis of UFO data,
Okay.
looking for patterns and anomalies that might provide insights
Right.
into the principles behind these unexplained technologies.
It's like he was envisioning a global UFO monitoring system years before anything like that actually existed.
Exactly.
But his plan wasn't limited to just UFOs, right?
That's right.
He also wanted to investigate other unexplained phenomena,
Yes.
those things that science often struggles to explain.
He advocated for investigating a whole range of phenomena that fell outside traditional scientific inquiry.
Like,
Things like ESP, dowsing,
mm.
even ball lightning.
I mean, what I'm getting from this is that he was willing to look anywhere for answers,
He was.
to consider possibilities that other scientists might have dismissed out of hand.
He really was.
I think there's a real lesson there, even for those of us who aren't, trying to unravel the mysteries of the universe.
Absolutely. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from looking beyond the familiar,
Right.
from being willing to consider ideas that seem unconventional or even, a little bit crazy.
There's a real sense of urgency that comes through in these documents,
Yeah.
like a feeling that Wood felt like time was of the essence.
Yeah. I wonder if that had anything to do with the historical context.
Well, we are talking about the late 60s.
Right. The height of the Cold War.
Yeah, the space race.
Exactly. There must have been this feeling that the world was on the brink of something big.
Yeah.
Either a breakthrough or a catastrophe.
And in a way, it still is.
In a way, it is.
We're still searching for solutions to global challenges.
Right.
Still trying to understand our place in the universe.
Absolutely.
Still pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
I think R.M. Wood's legacy lies in his willingness to ask those big questions,
Yeah.
to challenge conventional thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and to embrace the unknown.
That's well said.
He reminds us that the pursuit of knowledge is an ongoing journey,
Yeah.
one that requires both rigor and imagination.
This deep dive into the world of brutino physics and UFOs has been, I gotta say, it's been a wild ride.
It has.
It's challenged our assumptions, opened our minds to new possibilities,
Oh, sure.
and maybe even sparked a little of that, what if spirit in all of us.
If there's one thing we can take away from R.M. Wood's work,
Yeah.
it's that the universe is full of mysteries,
For
and the only limit to our understanding is our own curiosity.
To our listeners, keep exploring, keep questioning,
Absolutely.
and never stop looking for those hidden connections that might unlock the secrets of the cosmos.
Who knows? Maybe someday you will be the one to make a breakthrough that changes everything.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the mind of R.M. Wood.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Until next time, keep looking up.